everybody, welcome. Your Saltwater Guide, Captain Dave Hansen. I got Tiffany and I got Dave Burris with us again today. We're talking rod building. It's Thursday. We always talk about rod building on Thursday. Last week, we kind of got sidetracked because we had my good buddy Adam just fresh back from Alejos Rocks. Had a lot to talk about, but today is all about rod building, about Tiffany's classes, about all the different things that are going on with the rod building. And there's a lot of stuff going on, gang, and every single one of you that are watching the show, you all fish. And I was talking to one of our members this morning, and he was like, do you think Tiffany's class is really something I should do? And I was like, if you got the time, absolutely, because if you look around in your garage, gang, you all have a rod that needs a guide put on it. You broke the guide off. It's one of your favorite rods, but you're stuck. You don't want to drop it off at the shop, or you forget, and then it's time to fish and you don't. This is a great thing to have in your back pocket. Dave Burris started doing it when he was a little kid because of the fact that we fish and there wasn't a lot of people, Tiffany, around that could help us. So that's what I think. That's what I tell people when they talk to me. But today we're going to kick back and listen to Dave and Tiffany talk about all the different things that are going on with rod building. And if you have any questions, gang, feel free to throw them up on the board. We'll try to get to them if we can. If I forget, Tiffany will let us know there's a question that we forgot because she can multitask, unlike Dave and I. We're just barely able to be here right now.
Hey, I'm here. That's one thing.
Here we go, gang. Tiffany, what's going on? Dave Burris, talk about this. I don't even know about this flex coat stuff you're talking about. You got to buy by the 800-gallon drum now?
No, you can still buy it in small quantities. Flex coat has been around for a very long time. I'm going to say 73 or 4. It used to come in little containers. 4-ounce and 8-ounce containers. Now you can buy it in 4, 8, 16-gallon, 55-gallon drums, whatever you want. The original flex coat was problematic. It had no UV protection in it at all. We used to put it on a rod, and within a year or two, being on the boats, it would turn yellow and chalky. And
yeah.
Kind of like a rubbery state almost. And we kind of veered away from it to other things. Prior to that, we had a real nasty chemical composition that we used to use that was called Tanaka and Fuller Plus, and it was not fun. And talk about fumes. Oh my God. It would really waste your room. After that, there's been a lot of different manufacturers of epoxies that go on the guides. But I do believe that flex coat is one of the biggest and one of the most prominent. And there's some tricks to putting it on right. And that's what we were going to think about talking about is the tricks to putting it on right. And also maybe a little bit of how to install a tip guide. Because I think that's kind of important. Everybody breaks their tip off,
Yeah. Before we go into that, though, I need to give a shout out to Gabe Utsex, which is Tim's brother. He had lost his home in the Texas floods, and so we want to send prayers out to him.
All right. Well, that's too bad.
So prayers are being sent to your brother, Tim. So, Dave.
Yes, ma'am.
Over the years, I've seen Flex Coat make a huge U-turn on their products. What's your thought on that? Are you on the same line with me as that it's with their new UV coat, the new UV that they've done? I think that Flex Coat has come a long ways and has made, a huge difference now with their product.
I haven't used a lot of flex coat lately. In the last 10 years, actually 20 years. I've used a lot of classic coat, but that's they're no longer available.
Right.
I have a feeling EPA took them out. I don't know. Flex coat has the same properties, which makes it, almost a shoe-in because that's what I'm going to have to use going forward. But if it's a good product and it lasts, that's the important part. We want something that is crystal clear and stays that way, doesn't cloud up, and doesn't become chalky. That's really important. So if they've straightened that out with their UV protection in there also, which is a lot of it, because what happens is the sun breaks down the finish no matter what.
Right.
You got a lot of UV protection in it. Some of them will last long, long time. I mean, I've got some thread weaves that I did, 40 years ago that we put at the time. Flex coat was bad at that time. Ended up putting classic coat on it, and classic coat was very heavy on the UV protection. And some of those are around 40 years, and you can't even tell how old they are. There's no yellowing to them at all. So from what I come to understand, when FlexCoat did make their change and started adding UV to their product, UV protection to their product, they must have done a pretty good job, because otherwise, the rod or blank manufacturers like CalStar wouldn't be using FlexCoat, and CalStar uses FlexCoat right now.
Yeah, they've been using FlexCoat for a long time.
So does Seeker. I know for a while Leon was using classic coat. Probably 35 years ago he was using classic coat, and then I do believe about 20 years ago he switched. So maybe 15, he switched back to flex coat. But yeah, I appreciate it. Like I say, if it has the same properties and it goes on a rod good and levels out, and that's a important deal there when you're finishing a rod blank. That and having a torch in your hand.
Very important. Very important. One of the things that I see a lot of people do when they're doing their finishing and their coating is that they're putting the coat on too thick.
Well,
instead of
put a coat, you can put a coat on either. You can put it on thin, or you can put it on thicker. What I mean by thicker is if you just lay a layer of thread down and you put it on the thread, and you can no longer see individual pieces of thread, that's thick.
Right. No, I'm talking about I'm seeing people blobbing it on like
no. You can't do that. It won't play well like that. You have to level it from, and what they mean by leveling is they mean leveling it from one end of your wrap to the other end of your wrap. It needs to be level.
Yep. Exactly.
To actually finish to dry real well. And the way we do that is we put an excess on, and then we'll use a small torch and move it back and forth, and it kind of thins the flex coat out, and it gets rid of the bubbles. So it makes it crystal clear, but it thins it out. And then we'll take either a brush or your fingertip and just move the drips that are coming off the bottom of it back and forth until it's level. That seems to be a real good way of doing it. I know a lot of people don't like to touch epoxy with their bare hands. Doesn't
use
bother
the brush. They can use the back of the brush.
Yeah, use a brush. I personally use my fingertip, so that works out for me. And that's a big thing. I mean, you just have to have it level, and then you can always put on another layer.
Yep.
I mean, when I wrap a rod, When I throw a rod down there, first of all, I scratch up the blank before the thread goes on. I'll use a fine 3M pad, and then I'll lay the first layer of thread down, and then I'll coat it. And once that coating is dry, I'll go back over it with that 3M pad, scuff it up again. Then I'll put the next layer of thread down over the guides. I'll put another layer of epoxy down or flex coat down. Thin it out enough so it fills in the pockets beside the guides. That's really important. You want to get rid of that air bubble that's in there. And I'll let it dry, and I'll scuff it up again, put another layer of thread on it. You know, it's rinse and repeat until I get to the finish coat. And then I'll, you know, like I said, it's all sanded between each coat, so it sticks real well. Because epoxy, no matter what epoxy you use, it blushes. And what I mean by blush, there's a certain amount of wax in the formula, and that wax comes to the very surface when it cures. You have to get rid of that wax in order for the next layer to actually adhere. So you want, when you're building a rod, you want the epoxy to be the strong part. Thread is not that strong. The epoxy is the strong part. And if you do your epoxy job well, flex coat job well, finish job well, then it will be a very, very strong guide. You won't be able to necessarily take it off. You know, it'll be very difficult to take off. I'm sure you've seen some that are next to impossible to replace the guide on them, haven't you, Tiff?
Yeah. But you got to work it.
Yeah, you need to use heat and try and scrape it off. I know all my rods, you'd have a very difficult time replacing a guide in them because they're epoxied very well.
Yeah, and you want to be careful when you're applying heat when you're taking a guide off, because you don't want it smoking.
Oh, no. Very, very light amount of heat. Otherwise, you'll heat up the blank, and that's a no bueno.
Yeah.
In the blank, right down in there.
Yeah, that's one of the, replacing guides is one of the things that we go through in the intermediate class. Another thing on the flex coat is, or not just the flex coat, but the difference between the flex coats. You know, there's the ultralight and the high build.
Right.
A lot of people ask me, what do you use? Which is for? What's good for what and whatnot? And typically for me, see if you kind of follow the same rule of thumb, is that if it's like a trout rod or a fly rod, I tend to use the ultralight. But when you get up there past the trout, like into bass, you could do either or. But after that, I go into the high build.
Always. Always. I don't use a light build on anything, really. Even if the fly rods that I've built, I don't use that light because I've always had a problem with it curing.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't. Even using an eyedropper or a syringe to measure it with, and then putting it in a machine and tumbling and mixing it for 5 minutes, it still turns out tacky.
Really? Have you used a couple drops of acetone in it?
That helps. That helps a little bit, but it's not an all the time, every time situation. In other words, it doesn't. I guess the light formula is more susceptible to your environment, and what I mean by that is if it's too humid or if the temperature is not just right, it has a problem. Up here, it's dry, and it's it gets very hot in the summertime and it gets really cold in the wintertime. So
yeah,
it's hard to hit the environment just right. I mean, I try and keep my rod studio at the right temperatures and stuff, but for the most part, you have no control over that. So I kind of steer away from the light formula because if I want to thin it, like you said, you just put a couple drops of acetone in it, thin it that way, or you can just use heat.
Yeah.
When you're applying it, you use a torch and you can thin it out as thin as you want it.
I guess I've been blessed with the environment down here in Santa Barbara, because I haven't had a problem with the curing of the ultralight. But again, it has to do with, all sorts of factors, and some areas have a problem where some areas don't.
Right. I mean, I never had finishing problems when I was down Dana Point or San Clemente area ever. They the temperature was right.
Yeah.
Humidity most of the time was spot on. You don't have those issues.
Right. How far away are you from the ocean?
Always.
That's probably the problem.
150 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
How do you survive?
11 miles to Yosemite gate.
Oh, wow.
So the gate that goes into Yosemite above Fresno, Highway 41, that's 11 miles from my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you want to pop in there and see the Yosemite, you can do that, for a lunch break if you really wanted to. So.
Hey, gang, I want to break off for just 1 second. We'll get back into this rod building thing, and maybe Tiffany can talk for a few minutes if Dave lets her. But, gang, we got the big Grunion run starting tomorrow night, and it's going to be a big deal. And we got a bunch of members getting ready to go, and they're trying to organize. If you want to join our members, it's going to be somewhere Oceanside, San Diego area right now, but we could organize a group to go Grunion hunting in the Dana Point area, Salt Creek, something like that. The Grunion runs, I just posted them up here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And historically, the best night is the second night, and that is a good time. I like that time frame because it's 10:50 to 12:50. Is when you get into Sunday and Monday and you start getting into that 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 stuff, that's way past Captain Dave's bedtime. Not that 10:50 isn't. That's way past my bedtime, as you guys all know from watching the live lobster fishing shows. But Grunion are a phenomenal bait. You're only allowed 30 per person. So I would say grab a bunch of the neighborhood children, and give them all a 5-gallon bucket and bring them on down. That's what I used to do. Get down to the beach and bag those things up in 30 in a bag and put them in your freezer and take them out and use them to catch calico bass, white sea bass, yellowtail, halibut. Everything eats Grunion. It's a phenomenal bait. And if you go to our website, Your Saltwater Guide, jump on the community. Jason Cutter, Darren, Tim Ogilvie, Jeanette, she was way into it. She's got some stuff going on right now, but there's a lot of members that are way into this Grunion hunting because they know what a great bait it is. I just want to put that out there before we get much further down this rod building stuff we're talking about today. But the Grunion run is a big deal, and it's really strange, gang, that the California Fish and Wildlife, like Bill Varney says all the time, they got us down to only being allowed to catch 30 at a time, which is ridiculous. There's going to be billions of them coming up on the beach here the next few days. I want you guys to do us a favor, take as many video clips as you can and take as many pictures as you can, because as we start moving along here, we're going to stay as involved in this Fish and Game Commission meetings as we possibly can and show up to as many Zoom meetings as we can. And all this stuff is very important to be able to document it because they're making all the closures with zero science. So get out there. John Stanley's going to be going live here right after this show's over with his granddaughters. And then hopefully they're going Grunion hunting tomorrow night or Saturday night. But get out there and do it. There's the schedule, and we on the website at yoursaltwaterguide.com, we talk about what beaches you want to go to, where's the best beaches. We talk about that kind of stuff. And get out there and do the Grunion thing. It's pretty exciting. It's a fun thing to do. I know Dave Burris used to do it with me back in the day down in SoCal. It's a phenomenal night down there. It's not a snipe hunt. You're not out there hunting for something that doesn't exist. These Grunion actually do show up on the beach. So check it out, gang. Go ahead, you guys. Back to Rod Building 101.
Rod building 101.
Oh yeah,
Rod-
Grunion hunting with Dave.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It's a
Oh, it
lot of
was.
fun.
We used to have a good time. I don't know if we remember where the water was, but yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah, there was some stuff going on down at the beach back in the day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we used to grab 5-gallon buckets out from the boat and take them over there and grab Grunion, man. Oh man.
Oh yeah, the good old days when you could go grunion hunting and you were
Yeah.
allowed to catch them. I would
And they-
catch thousands of them in a night, no problem. Fill up gunny sacks full of them. But you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're only allowed to have 30. Pretty crazy times we're living in, gang. But we can fix all this by showing up to the meetings. And as this podcast moves along and gets better, bigger and better, and more people watch it, we're going to get more involved in trying to open fishing back up again, because it's pretty tragic what they've done to us. And this grunion thing is just another example of closures without science.
That's fact.
Yeah.
That's bad. Hey, we got a question over there from Robert Gruber.
Yeah, Robert Graper.
That's my friend.
Tiffany,
These are-
go ahead and handle
You
that
go.
question.
No, I'm going to let you take this one.
Well, Robert, gotta kick my dog out of the way here. Laying on my feet, I can't move. How they do that, and how I do it, and how Tiffany does it, is we continually put more coats on there and level them out until it becomes real thick, and it's like it looks real nice, and it's very smooth. So yeah, just add more finish.
Not globbing it. Not globbing it, though.
It's coat after coat after coat.
No globbing. Few
I mean,
coats.
some of my rods have 5-6 coats on them.
Yeah.
You know.
The other thing is, before you put the coat on, I see a lot of people when they're cutting their tag ends, they don't lift and move their tag end over to cut down at the thread mark. They're just cutting it so they have this little bump on it.
Well, you put your first layer of epoxy on there.
Yep.
You let it dry, and then you use a razor blade and you clean it off.
Yep.
If you can't leave your thread without ends, you need to work on it.
Yep.
Because none of my wraps have ends sticking out of them ever. Before I go in and epoxy them, I take a razor blade and go between the threads and slice it every time. So, that's another thing that's kind of hard to do. You have to get good at it. Otherwise, you have to rewrap a bunch of stuff too if you're not good at it. Because all your work goes away. Yeah. And then there's the school where they just nip them off with a pair of nail clippers and deal with it later. Well, you can do that too, if that's the way you want to do it. And that's, finish it and wait until it's dry and then go back with a razor blade and shave the nub off, and obviously you have to sand between coats or at least wipe it down with acetone between coats, because otherwise epoxy doesn't want to stick to itself. When epoxy sets and cures, there's a thing called blush that happens, and there's a little bit of wax that comes out. So it doesn't want to adhere to itself readily every time. So you need to either clean it with a little bit of alcohol or denatured alcohol or acetone or sand it. I mean, I use a Scotch-Brite pad, a gray Scotch-Brite pad, and that's what I sand between coats with, and it gets rid of all the blush, and it works really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're telling me you can clip it off and have a nub sticking up and then go back and fix that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very simple. It's not difficult. It looks scary, but it's not.
Yeah, you just anything. You get dust particles in your finish. as long as it's not your final finish, you can go back and scrape it off. Scrape it off with a razor blade. It disappears.
Sometimes when it's curing, a fly will come along and jump on your rod while it's curing, and they get stuck, and then you go back to see it, and you've got a fly there with his wings flapping.
The mosquito.
Mosquitoes. I mean, just all sorts of little bugs will pop up here and there. And
the
sometimes
dog
dogs. I remember one time my dog, it was turning and it was still tacky, but it was like the part where you don't want to touch it or it's going to get stuck on you. Yep. The dog went and looked at it and the top of his nose right here caught on it, and the whole rat came out and he's like shaking his head trying to get this off, and it was stuck on his nose.
Once upon a time, I used to wrap in my garage, and I had a gray Persian cat, and the cat used to sit with me while I was wrapping rods, very intent all the time. And I accidentally left the cat in the garage that night, and when I woke up, I went back out, and the rod was drying. And then I looked at it, it had gray fur all over it, the whole rod. Tried to do a brush along the rod and got stuck. The cat was okay, bald in a few spots, but not too happy. And I wasn't too happy about the rod either, because I had to strip that thing all the way down.
Yeah. It's sad when you've done all that work and something like that happens, and you've got to strip it down and redo part of it and stuff. And it's a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a weave.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so what else would you guys like to know about Flex Coat? How about you, Tiffany? What else would you want to know about Flex Coat?
Well, Flex Coat I use all the time. I love the stuff, and I grew up with Flex Coat. The rods that I've used Flex Coat on many years, they're not yellow or anything, and that's where I was talking about the UV that they have now. So Flex Coat, is my go-to. If they're out of it, then, I'll go to Pro Coat or something, but Flex Coat is my go-to. I love this stuff.
Flex Coat is my new go-to because Classic Coat is no longer sold. So unless you want to buy a 55-gallon drum,
no,
I don't want to buy 2 55-gallon drums. That's way too much. I'd never use it in a lifetime.
Yeah. There's skipping to a different subject here. We were talking a while ago, when you're fixing the lines and stuff from like weaving, and there's a gadget you told me about, the little typewriter tool.
Oh yeah.
Explain how we use the typewriter tool.
Well, it's a stainless steel toothbrush. It's ultra fine. The brush part of it's very, very fine. I mean, super fine. They used to use it to clean off the teeth of typewriters, to get the deposits off of them. And I don't even know where it came from. I'm sure it came from my grandfather. He was a typewriter repairman in LA County, and he worked for the school district there. He typewriters and different stuff. But I guess that's where it came from. And when you do a weave, if you were just to do a weave and you laid down the thread, you'd have bumps at either end. And the best thing you could do is make them like guide feet, where they're like ramps, as tapered as you can make them. So what you do is you pick apart the thread and unravel it, and this brush makes it super fine. I mean, it totally unravels it and makes it just flat. So that way you can wrap down it and off of it, and there's no bump there. So when you look at certain weaves, you'll find a bump, and that's because they didn't spend enough time picking them apart, picking the thread apart when they were done tightening the weave. But yeah, that little brush works great. I'll have to snap a couple pictures of it, and that way I can get it out to Tiffany and she'll see it, and maybe she can locate them for her class, her advanced class people, and go over there and show them how to use it. That way they have a good idea, how to straighten it out.
That's a perfect segue into what I wanted to bring up. So Tiffany's classes, gang, you got to listen to this, pay attention. She's going to go over the whole thing of what it's all about. And there's a lot of our members that are super fired up and they're signing up every day, Tiffany. They think this is so cool that you're offering this, and it is bizarre. And you have to understand, when she tells you the price, that's for the whole course. That's not for each individual class. And every one of you out there needs to have a new hobby, and it needs to be how to wrap your fishing pole. So check this out. Go ahead. Give them the rundown on what you have to offer, because it's pretty unique. Dave Burris and I are both blown away that you're doing it for it's almost free.
I might as well be free.
Well, first I got to tell you guys that this is very highly addicting. But it's very therapeutic. But I have to warn anybody and everybody that's going to get into rod building, it's addictive. But I'd rather be addicted to this than some other stuff. We have upcoming classes that are starting soon. We got beginner class, intermediate class, advanced classes, and weaving classes. Each class is a 6-week course, not the 1-day wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But they're actual courses, so you practice, because without practicing, you're not going to get any good. The actual courses are on rod building. We have a huge special also coming up that's an 18-week course that takes you from beginners and can turn you into a very good rod builder, but you need to practice. In this class has everything that we do in the beginner class, the intermediate class, and advanced class. It's all combined into one 18-week course for Sundays. It's Sundays, 4 p.m. Pacific time, I think 7 p.m. Eastern time. I tried to make it to where the classes that anybody, West Coast, East Coast can take it, because the evening classes that we have at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time is a 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm trying to add different classes in so that it's not so late for the East Coast people, and as well as like Canada and stuff like that. But this 18-week course, we have an early bird special for $130 for 3 classes. Plus you get a free rain shadow blank with this course. If you were to take each of these classes separately and add them together, it'd be $180. So this is a steal, this deal. If you've already taken our Rod Building 101 class, then we'll give you a discount and take $50 off since you've already gone through it. You'll go through the Rod Building 101 part again, but you're going to learn something different in this course, and some of the stuff, it'd be more of a refreshing for you. If you've already signed up for one, have already taken a 101 class, then just simply let me know and I can upgrade it to the 18-week course. I do like to bring on guest speakers to talk about what their experiences and expertise is, show people how to do it, people from the industry, other rod builders. Like I had Keller Batson come on and teach the class about acid wraps, aka spiral wraps. Captain David Bacon comes on and helps too, as well as other rod builders, and I'll have Dave on there too. I don't tell the students when a guest speaker is coming. I just have them show up to class and surprise the students. I like bringing other people to the classes so that students can get another way to build rod, because everyone has their own way that they build. And the only way to push further in your rod building skills is to learn as much as you can. learn different styles of rod wrapping, different techniques of rod wrapping, learn how rod builders do things in different ways. There is no one best way. And don't think one way is the best way and mock at someone else's way, because there's no right or wrong way to do things. Everyone is different. It may or may not work for you what they're showing you, but it's what works for them. It may end up being something that works best for you, and you will never know until you try somebody else's way. Each of us has a way that works best for us. It's basically all about the end result. That's what matters. So watching and learning from someone will only help your skills grow. I watch people all the time. Doc Ski, I watch everything he does. I watch everybody that, even if they're new, because the new guys can't teach the old guys new tricks. That saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, in here, yes, you can. You just have to have an open mind and be willing to watch and learn. Doc Ski told me the day you stop learning and rod building is the day you need to quit. Because you're always going to learn something. Just listen and watch all rod builders. Even if it's something little, a bunch of little things add up fast. If you really want to learn about how to build rods and learn faster than trying to watch videos that you end up getting caught up on something you didn't see, what you're creating is not working, you can't ask questions when you're watching a video. A lot of people is like me. I want to know, have a question. I want it answered right here, right now. Then if you can't, you should be taking a rod building like online class or in-person class where you can ask questions. I spent forever watching videos, trying to ask other rod builders questions. They wouldn't share anything. This is back in the day. They wouldn't share anything.
I did.
You did, but most people out there won't. They're like, their mouths are shut. Like they're afraid something's going to happen if you have a secret that's really not secret, because everybody can figure the stuff out. But they wouldn't share anything. And I was so irritated when I got caught up on something from a video and I had no one to ask. I watched it over and over and over again, but I couldn't see something that they were doing. And when I would find out who they were, I would send them a text. They wouldn't answer my questions when I texted them through whatever channel I found them on. So I've been there, and I only wish there was classes when I first started. I wouldn't have burned the tablecloth and made so many mistakes if I had taken the class and have someone walk me step by step through. And yes, I did burn my dad's tablecloth. But if I had classes back then, God only knows where I would be at this point in time in my rod building journey. So that's the reason why I decided to do online classes for people, to teach them what I know. And by past the mistakes that I've made, they won't have to make it. And I can help them if they get stuck on something, because I can walk them through everything. And you'll learn so much faster by simply taking a class. Instead of, having your heartache of trying to slow learn through watching videos and have no one to turn to. And we have quite a few different classes you can take. The beginning class, which is the Rod Building 101, we give step-by-step live instructions on building your first or second rod from start to finish. You learn how to start wrapping a rod, and we turn it into a diamond wrap. Before we do that, the class really learns about the different components and what types of rods they're good for. They learn what materials the guides and components are made of. They learn about different reel seats. They learn about the terminology and about different blanks. They learn about action deflection, power, weight class, and how to choose your blanks and components. We have question and answers, where if you've got a question, just pop up and say, hey, I got a question, and then ask your question, and we'll sit there and show you and answer your question. That's a 6-week course for $50.
That's amazing. $50, gang. Isn't all this info? Gang, I just want to tell you too, I'm going to show you a little preview of what we're doing right after the show. We're going to go live to John Stanley and his granddaughters. They are out on the water fishing right now, and it is wide open. There they are. John Stanley. Hello, everybody. We can barely see what's going on, but it's going to be cool in a little bit when we get you on that screen more. But look at you guys. There you are. We see you now.
I pointed right, got the camera going good there. Let's see. You see the girls?
Yeah, you're looking good. After the show, we're going to go live with John Stanley and his granddaughters. Are you girls fired up?
Yes. Bucky, I caught a bird.
Oh, God.
Got another bird.
Another
Okay,
bird.
well, we're going to go leave you with the bird. We'll be back with you guys after the show. There you go, Dave and Tiffany. Look at that.
That was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, they did that live on Saturday with us. The girls caught 52 fish live on the show in 2.5 hours. It was pretty fun.
Wow.
So make sure you tune in after the show for the live fishing show. But gang, Tiffany, why don't you give everybody your number, how they can get a hold? Gang, I'm going to go back to what she was saying. The shadows, that rod that you're giving away for signing up to the class, that's worth more than the day. That's worth more than what she's charging you for the class.
That the rain shadow giveaway, that's for if they sign up for that's the early bird special,
Right?
For the 18-week course. If they, some people don't want to donate 18 weeks, but the thing is with the 18 course class, or even the beginning, intermediate, and the advanced classes, if you can't make it to a class one day, I mean, things happen, people get sick. Somebody's getting married, someone's having a baby, things happen. So if you can't make a class, just let me know and I'll either send you a video of that. If you let me know ahead of time, I can videotape it and email it to you so you don't get behind. Or we also have makeup classes on Saturdays where if you can meet and do it online on a makeup class. So if you have any questions, I'm right there to help you.
That's pretty unbelievable, gang, if you think about it. Right, Dave Burris?
Yeah. Makeup class. No.
Just the whole thing, just to be able to log on at your house.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Phenomenal
get in
deal.
your car and go anywhere.
A lot of people, they don't understand also. You have the price of the class. Tiffany, why don't you go over what else they need to actually play the game?
Well, with the classes, you have two types of people. You have ones that already have their stuff and they want to use it as a seminar and try it later. I don't recommend doing that. It's okay to do that, but you really will learn faster if you try to follow along with what I'm doing and ask questions with what you're doing. That's what I think people do a lot better and learn a lot quicker. If they don't have products and they need stuff, then we have this killer deal going on right now for all summer. We just launched our summer sale on our online website, vaguerods.net. We're up to 40% off all summer long. Blanks, guides, tips, grips, butts, reel seats, winding checks, thread, tools, wrapping machines, and hand wrappers, the whole shebang, all summer long. So if you're already a rod builder, now is the time to stock up because right now everything is 40% off for the summer. And every week we put something new that we've brought in from another manufacturer. So right now, and we have the lowest prices in town. So right now is the time to stock up on for up to 40% off. I mean, it's really good deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to go over what they'll need to take a class. In other words, what would they need for a rod bench or a tensioner, thread tensioner, or what would they need in the way of a blank and everything to put one together? They kind of need to know what they're getting into. It's not just $50. It's all the rest of the stuff that is actually theirs to keep, but you need to kind of let them know what up front, what is, what they'll have to do.
Well, in the beginning class, before I can't just say, okay, here's a blank for you to build. In the beginning class, we learn on, different blanks and what they're used for, their action, and then we kind of get an idea, or the student will get an idea of what they want to build. Then we'll show them the different options of, like, if they wanted a 20 to 40 pound blank. Well, here's some options, and they want fast action. So they learn about this stuff before we actually go into passing out blanks. But when you first start, you're going to need blanks and components, and the components are your grips, reel seat, winding checks, flex
Right.
coat, tips, basic stuff like that. And for equipment, there's a few ways that they can do it that I talk about in the class. One is, if this is something they're just going to try and see if they want, but they don't know if they want to get into rod building or how many rods they're going to build, but they just want to learn and try it one time, I actually tell them two things you can do. You can either make a hand wrapper out of a cardboard box. It's going to take you forever, but you can do it with a cardboard box. And I show them
how I started out.
That's how I started out. I hated it. But for first timers, that's one way to go. Another way to go, something a little bit more sturdy, because with cardboard boxes, sometimes you have to go through 2 or 3 of them on one rod because you've pushed too hard. So now it's smushed. So when you're going to do your coating, it's not going to go on right. But the other thing I tell them is, you can go on the website and get a hand wrapper. There are several different hand wrappers to choose from. I will show them, the difference in the hand wrappers. They're all on sale right now. And so they can choose that. If they know they want to go into rod wrapping, then we'll go into the power wrappers, which I love the power wrappers because you can get it done so quick, but they are expensive. So you also have to look at the person's budget. So we'll go through that, and I'm not going to ask them, okay, are you rich or poor? Me, I'm poor. I had to save up for this stuff. But I'll ask them, what's the budget? Here's how much these rod wrappers, and we have a bunch of different rod wrappers on the on the website, different manufacturers. But I'll go through that and tell them which one I think would work best for them. Everybody's different of things that they like, but those are basically the stuff you want. Now, power wrappers are expensive. They can be anywhere between $350 to $900. So it depends on what type of bells and whistles you want on it. The most expensive one isn't always the best one. The cheaper one could be the best one, depending on what you're wanting to do. Do you want it to be a dryer and a wrapper? Do you want it to do, depending on what you want it to do for you is going to dictate, which one to get. Me, I have the middle guy. My favorite is the Alps. I've tried all sorts of different power wrappers. I used to burn through them until I came up with the Alps, and I've had my Alps for 7 years now. And it's like the Energizer Bunny. It just keeps going and going and going.
Nice.
How can they? Hey, I want to touch base because I know you're going to probably answer it just how I learned. How do you tension the thread?
They have a tensioner. The Alps comes with a little tray.
I mean, if we're just getting started, how would I, using a cardboard box, how would I tension the thread?
Use a book. You can put a book on top of your line, and that's how I did it. That's how my dad taught me, was a book on top of the line.
You put the thread in a cup.
Mm-hmm. That's another way.
Put the thread through the book and start adding weight to the book.
Yep.
And that's how we learned how to tension the thread to wrap on a cardboard box. It was a pain in the rear end.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. I was like, oh, you're fine.
I did 2 rods that way. And then actually my dad had a friend in a machine shop in Dana Point actually make me a rod wrapping bench that I put out in the garage. It was 10 foot long. It was awesome and have wheels, man. And he made me a tensioner, and I still got the tensioner. It looked like a big sewing machine tensioner, but it was probably an inch and a half around. It was big, and it ran up and down on a just like our rod wrapping benches that we have now, but it ran up and down on a rail, and it was good stuff. I think David remembers seeing that once or twice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was pretty interesting because no one else had anything like that. Your dad was very good to you and very good to both of us.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting.
Absolutely.
But you can do whatever you want to do. You can build your own rod wrapping bench. You can, I mean, I've built some out of wood. I've built, you can do whatever you want. And some of the best ones for like doing fly rods are the little lap hand wrappers where you weave the thread through a piece of leather to get its tensioning. Those kind of work really well, for doing fly rods. Because a fly rod is very delicate when you're wrapping guides on a fly rod. I don't know if taking a look at fly rods, they're pretty darn thin when it gets down to the tip area. So, but I taught a fly rod building class for Fresno fly fishers for 7 years. So I played the classroom thing with them, 4 or 5 times a year.
Fun stuff.
Oh yeah, it's interesting stuff.
It's hard.
Well, what else you got?
Well, you're typically looking to start. You can start with building a rod, learning how to build a rod for under $150. You're going to get a cheap blank. You're going to get cheap guides if you really want to start. But if you really want to dive into it, you can take the beginning class. The beginning class is going to be starting, let's see, I think July 29th through September 2nd. And this one, the beginning class really gets into the root of what rod building's about. And you also build, your first or second rod. From there, they can go into the intermediate class where we learn at least 3 or 4 different designs from marbling to different cross wraps. We learn how to read cross wraps. That's a very important thing because a lot of people are doing cross wraps and they don't know how to read patterns for cross wraps and what all the symbols mean and everything. So we go through that. You learn how to replace broken guides, learn decorative inlays, and again, questions and answers with step-by-step instructions. Now, if you're at the basic skill of rod building and you want to learn different designs, say you know how to build rods and you're good at it, but you want to learn different cross-wrapping designs, then this would be the class to take. And this one's $50 for 6 weeks, and it starts July 24th and goes through August 28th. This one's from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then we got the advanced class and the elite class, which is more, the advanced is more learning how to refurbish rods, learn more advanced decorative end wraps, technical cross wraps like the Black Widow, advanced marbling techniques. Learn how to create your own grips, question and answers. We're right there taking you step by step. The class is Wednesdays starting from July 23rd and ends August 27th. That one's $80 for 6 weeks. I would highly recommend you guys take the 18-week course. It's a killer deal, a lot of fun, and you will move through your rod building techniques relatively quickly. People always ask me, what if they miss a class? Like I said before, there's no worries on that. We do makeup classes, or I can send you a video, whichever you would prefer. But I would much rather you do a makeup class, so I'm there to answer questions that you may have and help you get step by step through the way. So that's what we're doing with the Rod Building 101, 102 Advanced, and then the killer deal of the 18-week course where you get a free rain shadow rod or blank, excuse me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question on your cross wrap
Mhm.
class. Where are you getting your information from?
Where I'm getting my information for what? Can you say that again?
Where are you getting your training or information from in the cross wrap portion of it? And are
I'm
you
not,
getting
I'm not following your question.
are you getting your wrap patterns from Dale Clements Advanced Rod Wrapping, or where are you getting your information from? Is what
That's one area, but I show them a pattern and I show them which directions you're supposed to go on the rod. I also have a whiteboard where I draw on the whiteboard which one and what each of the symbols mean. Then there's about 3 or 4 places that I get the cross wrap patterns, and then I take them step by step. So when any pattern they pick up, they'll be able to read which way to do, if they're doing right over left on top, or if they're going over a thread, or if they're going under, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different ways different places I find out. There's a question from John Emerson.
He wants to get his daughter a rod.
There you go.
Yeah, give me a call, John. We can go through some stuff. That would be fun for 14, and we can talk about, what design that she wants or what she likes. So yeah, give me a call or hit me up. Just go to vaguerods.net. We have a thing where you can chat. Send me a chat and I'll answer you right then and there.
Yeah, and John's a member of our website, so he knows how to get a hold of you. One
Okay.
last thing I'm going to ask you, and we're going to get out of here and go fishing with John Stanley and the grandkids. Tiffany, you said before we went live, you and me and Dave were talking, there's a deal right now. There's a discounted price for rods. What's going on with that?
Yeah, on our website, up to 40% off on all blanks, components, materials, supplies, everything is on sale right now we have it there, our summer sale. So from now through summer, everything you get up to 40% off at vaguerods.net.
Can't beat that deal, gang. I want to thank Dave Burris and Tiffany for being with us today and talking a little bit about rod building. We'll be back with the 2 of these knuckleheads next Thursday again. And also, you can find both of these people on our website at yoursaltwaterguide.com. They're on there always ready to answer any questions you may have. You can check them out at yoursaltwaterguide.com, or you can check Tiffany out at her own website at vaguerods.com. Give them that website one more time, Tiffany, and then we're going to jump over and watch John fish with the grandkids.
It's vaguerods.net.
.net, not .com. I always screw that up.
Nets when we're fishing, so I made it .net because we use nets when we're fishing.
There you go, gang. Check out our website. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Dave Burris, and we'll see you guys later. And everybody stay tuned. I'm going to change the title, and we're going to be right back live again. See ya.
How we doing, Dave?
Okay.